Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program here on the Edge of Philly Sports. It is Tuesday, May the 30th, 2023. It's 9 p.m. ish. It actually is 9 p.m. You're watching EOP. That means you are with me. And again, it is a pleasure to be back. And I hope everybody has had a great Memorial Day weekend. I had a busy one. I had a very busy weekend, doing a lot of different things. Not necessarily off stuff, but just real busy. That's okay. Keeps me young, keeps me looking like this too. So I can't really be that upset about it. But I'm glad to be back on this Tuesday night. And it's chock full of Philadelphia sports news. But listen, I am going to do this is not going to be your typical show. It's going to be a rapid fire one. The Phillies are currently playing the Mets right now in an outstanding game right now in City Field, as they are trailing 1-0 in the seventh, I think, at this point. So I don't want to go up against the Titans final. So I am going to be quick, fast, and somewhat in a hurry here tonight. And it's only really actually three talking points. Two talking points and a this day in Philadelphia sports history. So not too much for me to really get into, as we're really down to one team in town right now, as the Philadelphia Phillies are the Kings of Summer, and at 25 and 28. I don't know how much of a I don't know what their kingdom looks like, but they are the Kings right now. So we're going to talk about the Phillies. I won't say briefly, but I'm also going to bring up the Sixers, who hired their new head coach, Nick Nurse. Talk about the ramifications of that, in my opinion, and uh, and what that might mean for the future of the process and the future of the Sixers as we know it to be. And I'm pretty much going to wrap that up as we have the Titans final, as I mentioned here, coming up right after the Phillies game. And I don't want to go up against them with an outstanding show, an outstanding game tonight. Hopefully, the Phillies can get that equalizer and then another run and maybe pull this thing out. But let's get into this day in Philadelphia sports history. Nothing much. I mean, there's some things that were happening today, May 30th, but obviously, I'm going to go with what happened yesterday, May 29th in Philadelphia sports history. May 29th, 1989, a day that I will remember forever, because I remember actually, sorry about that. I actually remember watching it live. I was 16 years old, and my world shattered on this day, or I should say on May 29th, 1989. It was the day that Mike Schmidt, after 17 years in Major League Baseball, decided to hang it up impromptu, quick, fast, and in a hurry, I guess. Not really expected. He did it in San Diego. Excuse me, in San Diego, eh, just out of nowhere. I mean, his abilities and his prowess had definitely kind of degraded over the years. And in '89, he was you know, really at that point, not much of a full time player. Could have been a part time player, but it still didn't make the news that day that much easier for me to handle. Mike Schmidt was the man, the face. I mean, he was the face of the Phillies for my youth growing up. He's the greatest third baseman to ever play the game in a Phillies uniform, and he is the greatest third baseman to ever play the game, period. And on this day back in 1989, or on May 29th, 1989, I keep on saying this day, but on May 29th, 1989, Mike Schmidt hung it up for good, thus ending a career year, or a career that was a legendary Hall of Fame career. He was a first time ballot inductee into Cooperstown in 1995. And then a year later in 1990, his number was retired by the Phillies, deservedly so. He also made the All Star game in '89, which was about 2 months after he had retired. But he actually he was voted in as an All Star, and he made the appearance at that game, coming out in the field one last time, in a Phillies uniform. So it was a special, I guess, a special time, to remember his career, and to just find yourself very happy and content that you had an opportunity to watch him. And I got him kind of towards the back end of his career. I understand that, but it's still the effect that he had on me as a baseball fan and as a Phillies fan was lifelong. And it's a pleasure to listen to Mike Schmidt on Sundays with doing the home games. I love it. I look forward to it every week. But on this day, or I'll say this day, on May 29th, 1989, Mike Schmidt retired, thus ending his career as a Philly. And that was your day in Philadelphia sports history, brought to you by the fine folks here at Talking Philly Sports with Matty B. And know what else is brought to you by the fine folks here at Talking Philly Sports with Matty B? It's your weekly lineup for the Edge of Philly Sports. Today, or I should say yesterday, we actually were still doing it. The Birds of the Round table on your Memorial Day, because the Phillies were off yesterday, so there was no Titans final. But the Birds of the Round Table was there tonight. You got me, and then right after me, you got some talk Titans final, and then everything else that we have to offer as we usually do, a chock-full week here on EOP, starting, of course, with me. Here we're talking Phillies sports, Matty B. All right, let's get into the Phillies, I guess. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and the Phillies were off. You guys already know kind of how I stand on baseball teams not playing on the three major summer holidays. I think it's probably as un-American as it can be when a team is not scheduled to play on Memorial Day, 4th of July, or Labor Day. But yesterday, the Phillies did have the day off. They were not they did not play. So but they are playing on 4th of July and they are playing on Labor Day. Now, if you remember last season, the Phillies actually did play on Memorial Day, but they didn't play on 4th of July or Labor Day. So I guess if I got to pick my poison, this would be the poison I would pick. I think it's extremely un-American when you're not playing on 4th of July. Every baseball team professionally should be playing on 4th of July. God, I mean, nothing says America more than baseball. So, but the Phillies are scheduled to play on 4th of July this year. But yesterday, the Phillies had the day off, and it was time to kind of, for me at least, take some stock in what the Phillies have achieved or not achieved up to this point. 25 and 28. And typically at Memorial Day, it's one of those MLB checkpoint holidays or parts of the season, right? Where you kind of look back and take a look at your first quarter of work. We're a little bit beyond the first quarter, but we're kind of looking at the first quarter of work through 53 games. 25 and 28 is not, of course, where you want to be. We talked about this in nauseum. I talked about how much I hate talking about this, but to compare it from last year, they're a lot better than they were at this point last season. If you remember last season, this was the San Francisco Giants series at home that cost Joe Girardi his job. But this year, maybe the same vibe around the team. I don't know. I think it might be than it was last season. I spoke about this in nauseum both on this show and on the final. This team has got a whole set of different issues bothering it than the team from last season, and that the comparisons between the two need to stop. But you do it to assuage your pain. You look back, and I did it today. I look back on last season up to Memorial Day, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. They were really bad. I mean, they were what 21 and or 20 and 27 or something heading into that Giant series, and now they're obviously a little bit better than that. They're only 3 games under 500, but not inspiring at all this season. They've had issues with starting pitching. We spoke about that, about how the plan going into this season was the wrong plan by Dave Dombrowski. The starting rotation has really suffered with a lack of a fifth starter. And don't tell me it doesn't matter. Oh, we don't need, yes, you do. You need 5 quality arms to compete and win championships in Major League Baseball. I don't care what year it is and what you think analytics has done to this game, which I think it's destroyed the game. But you need 5 quality starters right now. And the Phillies don't have 5. They barely got 4. Ranger Suarez has pitched his butt off tonight. I gave up that 1 home run to Lindor. He's working his way back from an injury. But the Phillies have had inconsistent starting pitching from their 4, and they don't have a 5th. So there's no way that you're going to tell me that the Phillies can win a World Series like this. Dylan Covey yesterday or Sunday couldn't get out of the first inning. I don't think he's the answer, obviously. Bailey Falter didn't do well, 0-7 while he was here. He's getting kind of beat up down there in AAA right now as well. He didn't work out. Andrew Painter never made it out of spring training. It just was not a good plan heading into the season. And I spoke about it way back in February and January. I didn't like the direction that Dave Dombrowski was taking with starting rotation. You lost 3 starters last year. Yes, 3. We all forget about Kyle Gibson, but Kyle Gibson was very serviceable for this team through the first half of last season. He kind of hit a bump in the road there at the midway point and kind of lost there down the stretch and was relegated to the bullpen. But he was a quality arm out of that 4 position, or actually out of that 5. Yeah, he was 4 out of the 4 position in that rotation last year. He gave you quality innings. He gave you about 5 or 6 innings a game back in the first half of last season. And we lost that, and we never replaced it. We lost Zach Eflin. We replaced Zach Eflin with Ty Walker, who's up and down and around and around. And of course, we never replaced Noah Syndergaard. So it's not hard to figure out that the Phillies are one of the reasons why they're 25 and 28 is lack of consistent starting pitching. And again, don't tell me about analytics. Don't tell me about how offense will win the day. It doesn't. pitching wins you championships at the end of the day. It always has, and it always will. And right now, the Phillies don't have it. They have inconsistent starting pitching from the four starters they do have, and they don't have a fifth starter. And Dave Dombrowski needs to figure it out. He needs to pull the trigger. And I don't know what that trigger is. I don't know what team out there is going to make a deal by sending a quality arm to the Phillies' direction in late May. No team's going to do that because every team, maybe with the exception of the Oakland A's, think they're still in this thing. So no one's going to really do that at this point. And then if you're looking at maybe trading Nola at the end of July, and obviously that's on the table, that's going to be an option that we'll talk about as we get deeper into the summer and as this season unfolds. What does that say about the Phillies if they end up dealing Nola in July? Obviously, it says that the Phillies have given up on the season if they're going to deal Aaron Nola at the trade deadline, because you're not going to take away. I mean, he's a quality three, right? He's a quality three in most rotations. He's not a two, and he's obviously not an ace, but he's a quality three. And if he heats up and he gets on a roll here, he's really good. But if you trade Aaron Nola, trading Aaron Nola is not going to be the answer to fix the starting rotation in 2023. It's not. It's going to be an answer to fix something in 2024 and beyond. But it's not going to do nothing for this team in 2023. So to think that Aaron Nola holds the secret of trading him is the secret of getting the rotation back together, that makes absolutely no sense to me. It's ridiculous because, as I said, Aaron Nola would actually hurt this rotation more unless you're trading for like seven quality arms, and you can maybe try to mix and match five of them or four of them into your rotation. I don't know if the Phillies can pull that kind of trade off. So what is the answer at that 5 hole? What is the answer? Is it somebody that's currently in the system? Is it somebody that's currently working their way back from injury? Is Christopher Sanchez light the fire for anybody about a fifth starter? No, he doesn't light my fire. Does Bailey Falter light your fire about returning as the fifth starting pitcher? He never lit my fire for that. I never thought Bailey Falter was a starting pitcher at this point in his career. So what is the answer? Andrew Painter? You're not going to see Andrew Painter at this level of baseball, if all goes well, until about August. That's about when you're going to see him, if all goes well. He's still not even throwing. He's not pitching. He's throwing off flat mounds and half mounds. He's not throwing hard. He's rehabbing. There's something more going on, Andrew Painter, that we're not being told. There's something, I think, worse than what Andrew Painter's dealing with, that they're trying to either work through or hope to God it clears itself up. But I have a feeling, I do, that this Andrew Painter thing, it might not be going the way we want it to go. And unfortunately, I hope it's not Tommy John. But I got a feeling about it, man. I do. They're not talking about him. They don't really go into much detail about his rehab. They're just saying, what he's throwing off of and what distance he's throwing, but they're not providing anything more about it. Why being so secretive? He's a minor league guy. Yeah, he's one of your top prospects. But why are you being so secretive if it's no big deal? Because I think it might be a little bit more of a bigger deal than what the Phillies are telling everybody. But the question then remains is, who is going to be that fifth starter? Who's coming from nowhere to be that starter? Is it another one of the Phillies farmhands, McGarry or Abel? Is it one of those two who have yet to pitch above Double A? And McGarry's he's fighting way back from an injury. So it is not hard to say why the Phillies are 25-28 with their starting rotation issues. And I don't see a way back from it right now. I don't see the answer to the problem right now. And it scares me because we're in that phase of the season. It's not early anymore. So what are the Phillies going to do to try to fix that? What is the answer here? Because it's not Dylan Covey, and it doesn't seem to be Bailey Falter, and it's not Andrew Painter yet. So what is the answer, Dave Dombrowski? And don't tell me that every team is dealing with starting rotation issues. That's such a cop-out issue or a cop-out answer. You had a bad plan going into the season, and you need to own that plan. And nobody talks about Dave Dombrowski's bad plan. Now, I'm like the only one voicing my opinion about how Dave Dombrowski's free agent plan and the starting rotation was wrong. And I've been saying it all along. Why is this? Is he hands off? You can't criticize Dave Dombrowski? I mean, come on, man. It's not working. It didn't work. It was bad. And we're sitting here in late May talking about who our fifth starter is. That's unsatisfactory. So that is one of the reasons. And that was a difference from last year because the Phillies were getting quality or consistent starting pitching at this point in the season. They were, for the most part, not every night, but for the most part, they were getting quality starting pitching at this point in 2022. Now let's move on to the offense and their struggles. And let's gravitate towards two players right off the bat. Trey Turner, who seems to be at least at this point, and I know he's had a rough night tonight, but he's battling his way back out of a slump. He's been hitting the ball hard over the last few games. Positive signs that he might be coming around, and I don't doubt he will. I was totally on board with Trey Turner, still am, and I will always be. I think Trey Turner is a great move. We just got to work through whatever he's dealing with, and I think he's going to be fine in the long run for this team going forward. And then let's go now to Kyle Schwarber. I no one's selling me on this man. Um, you know, back when pitchers batted, remember that 2 years ago, before they were shut out of the plate. There were some pitchers out there that were batting higher than what Kyle Schwarber's batting and batting average wise. It, you know, it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing that we have a contributing player who gets paid millions of dollars in our lineup that's batting in the 160 range. And I think it's going to be lower because I just saw him strike out before I came on the air, but it's embarrassing. Kyle Schwarber is an embarrassment to this town and this team. It I don't know why we accept it. I don't know why we're accepting Kyle Schwarber in our lineup every day when the guy does nothing but literally hit home runs, and he's not doing that at all, consistently. And it's unreasonable to think or ask him to go up there every at bat and try to hit a home run. He's not going to do that. Physics say otherwise. But yet every night we trot him out there, and every night he finds new ways to embarrass himself at the plate. And I wrote him hard when he was batting 180, 188, 195. I wrote him hard at that point. Got off his back a little bit when he rose that average up to 200, but 160 something is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to Rob Thompson. It's an embarrassment to John Middleton. It's an embarrassment to Dave Dombrowski, and it's an embarrassment to the Philadelphia Phillies fans. Straightforward, 100% an embarrassment that we have to tolerate seeing this guy in our lineup every single day. Don't give me the hit season in June. He's supposed to be able to bat April through October. Is he only getting paid in June? No, he's getting paid April through October. So I expect him to be hitting through April and October. And right now he's not. And it's an embarrassment. He needs to come out of the lineup. We need to sit him down and figure something else out while he works out his bugaboo issues, because a contributing player that bats in the heart of your lineup, that's making millions of dollars and is batting 168, is an absolute disgrace, and it's an embarrassment to the Philadelphia Phillies fan base. So that was something that was kind of happening at this point last season, but Kyle Schwarber was not necessarily batting in the 160s. I believe it was up in the 180s. He was batting a little bit better than he was this season, but still, it's following up year to year. Kyle Schwarber's offensive struggles are now a thing this year. And I think it's a real thing. It's not a slump. Something's not right. He's not a good hitter. He's not a contact hitter. He's not a disciplined hitter. It's home run or bust. And I can't deal with it anymore. I cannot deal with it anymore. I need Kyle Schwarber to be set. Kyle Schwarber could be a trade candidate. Why not? He could bring you back a quality starting arm at this point in the season, and I would absolutely 100% be on board with trading Kyle Schwarber. If you're looking to upgrade the rotation, hurting the rotation, because Kyle Schwarber is doing nothing, automatic out. So why not shop Kyle Schwarber? Shop him around. I don't know if anyone's going to take the contract. I don't know if anybody wants to take the headache, but I would be actively shopping Kyle Schwarber to anybody that wants to listen. I would drive him personally to the airport or drive him wherever it is they trade him to. I need to see Kyle Schwarber either sat down, sent down, or traded until he figures himself out. It's an embarrassment, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. The Phillies should be ashamed of ourselves that they run this guy out every night and we have to watch him. It's an embarrassment. I mentioned it was an embarrassment. So that's a problem that existed last year that is still existing this year, but it's a little bit more intent. It's a little bit more deeper. It's a little bit more ingrained. He's worse. So Kyle Schwarber. Mm-mm-mm. Another thing is the Nick Castellanos story. Uh, Largely the most consistent hitter we've had all season long, and that is an absolute upgrade over what he was last year at this point. Nick has been a valuable bat in that lineup. He's been hitting to all fields. He's not been hitting for much power, but that's okay. He's been hitting for doubles. He's been getting our on base, and he's been knocking runs in. Definitely I can live with that. I can live with that all day long with Nick Castellanos. Definitely a positive bounce back story from last year when he was struggling a little bit like Kyle Schwarber is. And it's a good thing to see Nicky Bats starting to swing that bat as well. So a positive thing. The other thing that is the same, I guess, than it was last year was this dreadful batting with runners in scoring position. The Phillies last season were a historically bad batting or team with runners in scoring position. This year, they've they've one up themselves because they're batting even worse this year. Entering tonight's game, batting 233 with runners in scoring position, 104 for like 410 on the season. Uh, just a again, it's not a secret. It's not like it's not the secret of the world. Like why the Phillies are struggling. They can't drive runners in that are on base. They can't get that big hit. They get runners on base with second and third and one out, and it's 9 times out of 10 they cannot drive in the runner or any one of those runners. They get a guy on third with one out and they can't get him in. It's been something that's plagued this team deeply for the last 2 seasons, and that needs to change. And is that coaching? Is that the approach of the player at the plate? Is that Kevin Long's problem? Is he not coaching these players right on how to actually approach a situation where they got runners on in the scoring position? And this is what you got to do to get a runner in. I'm not, we're not looking for you to break the bank. We just need you to drive or get this guy in. I like to know because to me, this team seems clueless on how to do that. So that was kind of the same. The bullpen. The bullpen's an upgrade over what the way it was last year. The bullpen is not the blow pen, as one of our contributors here on EOP. I almost said something else on EOP. Walter, who chimes in these shows all the time, he's a regular on the Fight and Spinal. He coined it the blow pen last year. Well, they're not the blow pen anymore. There's been significant upgrades in that bullpen. They kind of fixed themselves at the end of last season, but they've definitely continued that trend into 2023, and that is definitely a positive thing that the Phillies have improved upon in 2023. And then I guess the last thing is the manager, right? Joe Girardi, dead man walking, lame duck manager, didn't have a contract beyond 2022. Seemingly looked like he was done, checked out, had his nose buried in that binder. Was definitely the scapegoat for all the ails of the Phillies. He was fired. Rob Thompson was brought here or made the interim manager, took the Phillies to the World Series, and the rest is history. But now here we are with Rob Thompson. Same kind of MO. Got his nose buried in a binder, is having analytics drive the day, creating his starting lineup 3 to 5 days in advance, which I don't know how you do that at Major League Baseball. I really don't. He's made more wrong decisions than he has right decisions. Is Rob Thompson an upgrade over the situation of last season? Is Rob Thompson an upgrade over Joe Girardi? Right now, I don't think he is. I mean, he's got the cachet of the World Series to fall on, but other than that, he has not been at all the same manager as he was last year as he has been this year. He's made some very confusing moves. Made some very confusing lineup moves. So, do we have a worse manager than we did last year, or is it break even, or does Rob Thompson come out on top of that? I don't know. I think if anything, it breaks even. I'm not giving Rob Thompson the edge over Joe Girardi at this point last year. I'm really not, because right now the team is undisciplined. They strike out at an epically high amount of 9 a game. They can't drive a runner in to save their life. That's managing. Rob Thompson, what has he done to fix any of that? I haven't seen it. So all in all, the Phillies find themselves in a similar but different situation than they were a year ago. 23 and 25, or yeah, 23, 25 and 28, heading into the Memorial Day holiday with a lot of questions on this team. Are they out of it? Absolutely not. Is this current 10-game road trip, and this was a segment, a point on the show billing or the advertisement of the show tonight, is this 10-game road trip the season? No, it is not the season, but it is a defining moment of the season. You're going to have a great idea what your Philadelphia Phillies are coming out of this road trip in 2023 than you did before. All right. These next 10 games, they're 2-2 so far. They're playing right now. If anybody wants to hit me up with a scoring update, I'd be greatly appreciative. But these next 10 games are defining of what your team is, of what the Phillies are. It's not the season. It's not, if they go 2-8, it is not the season, but it is a defining moment of the season. It'll give you an idea of what they are. And I don't want to hear it's too early. It's not. It's actually right there at that time where good teams begin to separate from the bad teams. And the mediocre teams, well, they they mediocre. And right now the Phillies are mediocre. Now, can they turn it on? Absolutely. Will they turn it on? I don't know. Can they turn it on? I don't know. We have to wait and see all this. But at 25 and 28 and sporting a 10 and 14 for the record for the month of May. So that means they're going to finish May under 500. I mean, there's only 2 games left this month. They're going to finish May under 500. Um, they obviously did not build off of the success of April, and April was a success. 15 and 14 is a successful month in April. It is. That's a successful month for the month of April. But they had an opportunity as schedule got a little bit harder in May, but they had more days off. They were unable to build off of the progress made in April, and they're back down to square one. So, what is this team going forward? And at the next checkpoint, which would be around 4th of July, All Star break ish timeframe, we don't know yet, but we're starting to see it. A team that is still suffering with some of the problems from a year ago, and have actually added some new problems from a year ago. So the comparisons, we need to stop doing them. I say this every week, but I continue to do it. We need to stop doing them. But the Phillies, are they a better team in this point in 2023 than they were in last year? I don't think so. I think there's the same. The record is better, but the product is, to me, very eerily similar than they were last year, with a couple nuances that are not good. So 25 and 28, your Phillies continue to putter through the rest of the, I guess, first half of the schedule. And as they get closer to that All Star break, and again, these next 10 games, very defining, very, very defining of what this team will be heading forward. And don't forget, heading forward, Philly Sports Trips is the place you need to look into if you want to get in on some of the Eagles road trips in 2023, but not just the Eagles. You got Phillies, you got Flyers, and you got Sixers stuff that they offer all season long. Head over to phillysportstrips.com. Check out everything they got there to offer you. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. These trips are life changing events. I've been told. I've never been on any of these, but I've been told they are life changing events. And don't forget, head on down to Dolan's down there on 24 East Sellers Avenue in Ridley Park for Quizzo music, great times, and memorabilia giveaways. You never know who might walk through the front door at Dolan's at any time throughout the day. Now let's get on to the Sixers as we're wrapping up the rapid fire Talking Philly Sports with Matty B show tonight. Nick Nurse, our new head coach, obviously a championship winning coach. Nick Nurse comes to us most recently from the Toronto Raptors, where he led the team past the Sixers a few years back in the double doink game. Was it the quadruple doink game? I forget which one it was, which one they call it. Was the Eagles was a double doink, right? Yeah, and then the Sixers was a quadruple doink. Okay. But anyway, Nick Nurse is our new head coach. Definitely a night and day type of coach over Doc Rivers. I hear the comparisons to a John Tortorella light. That's the kind of old school coach Nick Nurse is. Is this the type of coach that the Sixers need at this juncture of the process? With this team kind of hanging on to anything that it might be potentially a championship team, is this the kind of guy that needs to come in? Is this the kind of guy that you want in here right now? You got issues with your star player who apparently doesn't show up in the playoffs. You got issues with James Harden. Is he not coming back? Is he coming back? There's definitely a lot of sideways stuff about that, depending on who you listen to. But now you add Nick Nurse into the equation, a not necessarily your new school type of guy, more of an old school guy, more of a player accountability guy. Is this the kind of coach that the Sixers need? Is this the kind of coach that's going to bring out the best in Joel Embiid, or is it going to work in the opposite way? I like the hiring. I think it's a great hiring. I think it's a hiring that's going to either usher in the championship ways of this team, or for once and for all, end this whole nonsense of the process and we move on to something else. I think it's a great move. I think it's a move that is overdue for this team. Doc Rivers, to me, spent 1 year. I'm sorry, Glenn Rivers spent 1 year too many years here in Philadelphia. But now Nick Nurse is here. And this is, I guess you kind of equate it to a little bit about what John Tortorella is doing with the Flyers. This is a put up or shut up moment for the Sixers in their process. And how do they respond? Does Joel Embiid accept the challenge of a new head coach, an old school head coach like Nick Nurse, or does he cower away from the challenge and says, you know what, I'm going to take my ball and my MVP trophy and I'm going to go home? Is this the end of the process, or is this the beginning of the new untapped Joel Embiid and company? Only time will tell. But I like the move. I think it's a great move. I love it. I think it's long overdue that we have a coach like this here. And Nick Nurse, I think, is going to either, again, It's going to be what it's going to be epically great, or it's going to be a disaster. There will be no middle road with Nick Nurse. It's going to be really, really good or really bad. So Nick Nurse is here. I hope it works out, and I'm looking forward to the season that's coming up. A lot of questions, free agent wise. James Harden, Tobias Harris. He's not a free agent, but it doesn't get moved. All that. So stay tuned. There's no draft picks this year, so yeah, I don't know if you have to watch the draft, but stay tuned to what the Sixers might do in the free agency as they prepare for the Nick Nurse era in South Philadelphia. And if don't forget, if you're looking to get in on the tickets for next season with the Sixers, or for Phillies tickets right now, or next season's Flyers tickets, or next season, or current sports venue or concert or theater tickets, you need to head over to Sherry's Ticket Town at www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Save an additional 10% when you enter the promo code EOP10, and they will take great care of you over at Sherry's. And I mentioned this last week. If you woke up this morning and you had workman's compensation, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or criminal law questions or concerns, then I hope you call Dave Cherry at 610-565-0300, because Dave's a straight shooter and he will do everything he can to help you out. When you go there, tell Dave that Matty B and Talking Philly Sports, Matty B and the Edge of Philly Sports sent you, and he will take great care of you. I just see the Phillies have lost 2-0 to the Mets. So obviously the offense not able to get out of Sanga's way as he dominated. I think he had 9 strikeouts when I was watching. So the Titans final will be coming up here right after this show, or some seemingly right at the near future at the end of this show. So Phillies lost tonight 2-0, folks. 2-0. No offense. Wow. All right. So that's going to wrap me up. That's right. I told you it was rapid fire. I'm going to give the final. The guys, it's not me hosting the final tonight. I believe it's Big Al. I'm pretty sure it's Big Al hosting the Fights final. So I'm going to let Big Al kind of get deep in the weeds on the Phillies, but they lost tonight 2-0. No offense to speak of. Now 25-29, 2-3 on that vaunted 10-game road trip as they continue now through New York and the stinking lousy New York Mets. So until we talk again next week, folks, it's always a great pleasure. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Until then, that is the news, and I'm out of here.